Some sections of this video will contain main plot spoilers, but they will be warned ahead of time, and if you want to navigate this video spoiler-free within reason, it will be easy to do so. 13 years after the original Alan Wake graced the Xbox 360, we finally get a full sequel to the events of Bright Falls, and I learned there was a bunch of side content I never played leading up to it, whether it was a DLC for the original game or DLC for a completely different game. Apparently Remedy has its own Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I only played about half of Control and none of its additional stuff, so to prepare for some of the background lore I would no doubt be needing, I watched like a 15-minute recap video on YouTube of all the events that have transpired in the Alan Wake universe leading up to 2, and retained at least a third of that information going in. Should you know everything else before you play this game? Yeah, probably. There were definitely things I didn't understand at first, and then I remember, oh yeah, that was in the recap. And they would be pretty significant, so. But if you've never played an Alan Wake game and are wondering whether it would be worth taking the plunge into the catalog for Alan Wake 2, because you at least have to play the first game, and I mean play it, unless you're gonna watch like a full playthrough or something, you need hours for all that information to sink in and become embedded into your gamer memory, but yes, it is worth, because Alan Wake 2 is a very good game. Gameplay-wise, it's basically a cross between Resident Evil and The Last of Us, which are franchises I like both of, so it was instantly comfortable to shuffle around, collect ammo boxes from cabinets while managing inventory space, assign weapons and items to quick slots in a weapon cross, which is like a weapon wheel except it's shaped like a plus sign, 2 slots deep on each side, which is better designed so you can't accidentally tilt your stick a slightly wrong angle and select the wrong thing, and go for third-person headshots. Alan Wake's particular mechanic involves the flashlight, which can use its battery to be boosted on enemies to strip them of their darkness shields that would otherwise protect them from harm, though not all enemies have this, so it's not as resource draining as it could be. There aren't any real stealth mechanics, but when you get the crossbow, you can headshot dudes from far away in one hit before they see you, which is pretty satisfying, and then retrieve your bolt so it didn't even cost you any ammo. The general gameplay exploration boils down to you taking control of 2 characters at different junctures. FBI agent Saga Anderson, who's been sent to investigate cult murders in Bright Falls, and Alan Wake himself as he navigates the dark place trying to get out. These 2 narrative threads happen simultaneously, hopping around the timeline a bit, and you can continue each character's story independently of the other, like you could do most of Saga's story stuff first if you wanted, and then Alan's, or vice versa, though it's better to alternate between them as they complete their own chapters so you can get the parallels of the story as they happen and understand when they intersect. I finished Saga's plotline, which occurred after an in-game message telling me the endgame was starting and I could no longer explore, but when I got to a pivotal moment, it left me on a cliffhanger and switched me to Alan's story because I still had 3 more prior sections I hadn't done with him yet, so it's possible to accidentally ruin the pacing for yourself, and then I was out here haphazardly bum-rushing his bullshit so I could get back to that cliffhanger. I do think Saga's general gameplay is just better. It's probably not even arguable. She gets better weapons, more exploration, her enemies are less annoying, and she can use her mind place, which I'm very annoyed isn't called a mind palace, to solve the numerous plot lines that develop in the form of detective cases. And you'll quickly figure out that she's got the Alan Wake 2 IGN wiki in her head, because some of the leaps of logic that occur can only be explained by literally cheating. She'll ask herself where a dude is who just disappeared, and then go inside her mind place and be like, oh, he's at Cauldron Lake. And her partner's just like, okay, let's go, I guess. This is addressed later, it's just funny and weird in the beginning. Alan's gameplay has limited weaponry and all the enemies are just these aggressive shadow dudes that hide amongst other non-aggressive shadow dudes, so you spend half your gameplay shining your flashlight on every silhouette in sight to make them disappear and root out the ones who want to attack you. These guys just loiter all over the place, and the non-aggressive ones respawn 2 feet to the left of where you just melted them, and eventually you'll just get frustrated and run through everyone, which you're not usually punished for. This game heavily rewards exploration with environmental puzzles and loot that in Saga's case can be used to upgrade weapons, or in Alan's case give him perks that can affect all sorts of things, like extra inventory slots or max HP. I went out of my way to find as much stuff as I could without looking anything up, and I probably only got 80% of it. Some things are well hidden, and some puzzles are stumpers. The last thing I want to talk about before we get to the game graph is the fear factor, because this is a horror game after all, so how scary is it? This is where I might deviate from the pack of other people who like this game, because as someone who is generally afraid of horror games, I can count on one finger the amount of times this game even tried to set up a decent scare. What you get instead are these constant screaming silhouettes that randomly flash across your screen in jump scare fashion, and the only reason it makes you jump is because it's so fucking cheap and unearned and out of nowhere. Generally, whichever entity or character you're chasing or searching for during that part of the story will just pin itself to your screen like an X-ray for a split second, accompanied by a dark, violent whirring sound as you get closer to confronting it. We're talking upwards of 50 times all told. 50 times, probably more, that you'll just see a character's face, Mr. Negative style, yell at you for opening a door or reaching down to pick up a piece of paper or breathing too many times in a row. It's the kind of thing you'd expect from a shitty indie horror Halloween cash grab, and I don't think it should be excused here, especially in the absence of any earned jump scares. There's still plenty of tension and an okay amount of dread, but most of the dread for me was just, alright, when's the next bullshit scream, rather than being afraid of the enemies prowling around. It's actually a little upsetting because there were plenty of moments I saw where they could have planted a contextualized jump scare that would have been earned and effective, and they just didn't. Specifically with most of the side content nursery rhymes you'll find scattered around, some of those lead you into dark, claustrophobic houses, ratcheting up the tension immediately because of the foreboding rhyme you read that led you there, foreshadowing some menacing confrontation, and then they just don't do anything. Nobody ever jumps out of a closet or crashes through a window to attack you. You just pick up a charm for your bracelet and move on like nothing happened because it didn't. It's dumb and it makes me feel like I'm edging. But let's get to the game graph, where we judge story, graphics, mechanics, and fun as separate categories before giving an overall score at the end, starting with story. The story is very impressively put together. It's not easy to create two narratives that are both disconnected and connected, weaving Saga and Alan's progress together regardless of the order in which you tackle them, and having them make sense is a feat of storytelling. Overall, it's probably the best narrative of any game I've played this year, but there's still some little spoilery quibbles I want to discuss, so starting the spoiler section now, skip to where you no longer see the red spoiler text on the screen if you feel like it. 3, 2, 1, here we go. The Dark Place deals with loops. That's what everyone in it says. That's their general understanding of how it operates, and we operate that way in it as well because throughout the game there are several loops, whether it's Saga in an overlap or Alan trying to push through to his next destination. But think about the very last line of the game. It's the realization that it's not a loop, it's a spiral. Symbolically, this was foreshadowed by the spirals on the door to Alan's writer's room, so it's not like it came out of nowhere, but spirals are about continuing down the same path until you reach the center, and my issue is that that's already how we were dealing with the loops. By continuing forward, trying to reach the center, the characters even explicitly state that that's their goal when they're inside loops. So to me, it's just a weird final line to end on when our characters have already been acting as if that's been true the entire time. This next thing is kind of petty, but also the suspension of disbelief associated with it requires us to think that Scratch is a fucking idiot in order to stomach it for the sake of a boss battle. But during the battle with Scratch at the beach, why does my man not just go up on the cliff and kill the FBC agent who keeps shining bright, staggering lights in his face? He can teleport. It's not like he's too short to reach the top shelf out here. Maybe go up there and rip up the lady who keeps stunning you for 8 seconds at a time, while Saga attempts to set up the most obvious trap the world has ever seen that you somehow still fall for. We're positioning 2 heavy-duty lights shining towards a cage with an open door, and then we walk in the cage like, "Hey, Scratch, come get me, bitch." And he's like, "Why, yes, I'm a fucking dumb sack of shit. Let me just meander inside to get blasted." "No, what's happening?" Okay, the last thing is just something that makes me respect Saga less, because it turns out her hunches are a family power of being a seer who can magically produce information, and I don't think that realization does what it intends to. It just makes me go, oh, so it's not that she's a good detective, she just has the most relevant detective superpower she could have possibly been blessed with, and now all the reverence and deference shown by her partner feels unearned. In the beginning of the game, Casey's like, "Anderson, I brought you on this case because I suck, and you're an amazing detective with hunches that are hella good, so you're gonna be the lead on this one." And we hear that like, oh damn, Saga must be a prodigy or just uber experienced, can't wait to get in her head and solve these cases, but then you're like, oh never mind, I'm playing as a basic FBI agent with cheat codes turned on. The whole thrill of playing detective is deducing things and tying things together logically, but whenever she hits a dead end, she just Googles the answer in her own mind, and we're forced to accept that. The cases themselves still twist and turn in ways that keep you guessing, and I don't think the plot is predictable for the most part, so maybe it doesn't matter that much, but end of spoilers. I still give story a 95. Now for graphics. The graphics are pretty good in-game. They sure know how to make a forest look like a forest. The real standout is the way they weave the live-action stuff in there. It's the first game I've ever played where the live-action stuff still felt like the game instead of like an outsider CGI cutscene. This game transitions from being a game to a movie and back to a game very smoothly. You'll go from seeing a live-action thing on an in-game TV holding X and then you're automatically full live-action and it isn't jarring at all. Not for nothing, but I took every chance I got to watch every Ilmo and Yako commercial because their chemistry is perfect and it's legitimately funny. I also can't be the only one to draw parallels between the live-action scenes with Alan Wake, where he's on stage acting confused, and some of the scenes from Bo Burnham's Inside. It's like the same vibe, and the actor who plays Wake looks almost identical to Bo Burnham in that special with the long hair. If we're talking about acting performances, pretty much everyone in the game is great except Saga. I think she's wooden most of the time, except for towards the very end. I'd definitely give a special shout out to the live actress who plays Alice Wake. Her video journal entries are a masterclass in authenticity, and I think she should be nominated for Best Performance at the Game Awards. She has maybe 5 minutes of screen time in the game all told, but she still manages to outshine everyone. I know this is the graphics section, so we got off track, but whatever, count the acting towards the 95 that story got. The astonishing level of detail in the Dark Place is definitely worth mentioning. There's a Harry Potter novel's worth of unique graffiti on the walls down there, and it sells the decrepit yet artistic nature of the locales so hard. I'm giving graphics a 95. Live action is obviously cheating in terms of graphical fidelity, but the way it's integrated is so seamless that it elevates everything else too. Now for mechanics. I really enjoy the exploratory RPG elements that make you feel like it's worth playing more of the game to get stronger and upgrade your stuff. The difference between someone who didn't bother and someone who meticulously took the time to find everything will be pretty big by the end, though they don't give you enough materials or discoveries to upgrade everything. This seems like a game that could have a fun New Game Plus, but I didn't get that option. Upon continuing my completed file, it just teleported me back to my last save before the end. Alan Wake 2 does have a little jank. Your character is glued to the floor when they move around, so they can't even jump off the tiniest inclines. If you're 6 inches above the place you want to land with no visible barricades, you still have to go back and find the path that leads down there. I also encountered a glitch that persisted across cutscenes where my in-game character model was frozen, so only my gun and flashlight would bounce around when I ran, and I thought it was fun, so I played like that for half an hour before I fixed it by switching from Alan to Saga. I was rarely ever low on ammo. The game does this thing where the more stuff you have, the less stuff it gives you, so you could open containers and have them be empty if your inventory is already full. You definitely want to land headshots at all times. The damage difference is massive, and that'll save you a bunch of bullets. The flashlight boosting mechanic can be janky too. It's got a built-in lock-on feature when it activates, but sometimes it'll lock on to like the arm of an enemy that is currently flailing said arm, so your beam will miss most of its boost and you'll have to waste extra battery to destroy their shield. I played on normal mode and died maybe twice, so the combat isn't too demanding. You also have a dodge that's pretty reliable. I don't think it has invincibility frames based on the number of projectiles that still hit me in the face, but good timing will still dodge most attacks. The environmental puzzles are a treat, and shining your flashlight on every conceivable surface looking for invisible arrows that point you to a stash or a perk is satisfying when you do find something. I'm giving mechanics a 90. Now for fun. Is Alan Wake 2 fun? Yes and no, but mostly yes. It's fun to search every crevice for upgrades, it's fun to headshot people and blow them away with a shotgun, and it's fun to gradually unravel the mystery before you. It's not fun to brute force your way through 100 stupid jump scares, or shine your flashlight on 1,000 different shadows to make them disappear or attack you, but as you play through Alan Wake 2, certain sections give you the sense that you're not the only one having fun. The game is too, and I do enjoy that. I give fun an 80. And now we come to the overall score, which is not an aggregate of previous scores because some things are weighted differently with genre and other context taken into account. I'm giving Alan Wake 2 a 91 out of 100. It's not perfect, but it's a terrific experience that you should definitely experience. That's going to do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos with a random jump scare every 2 minutes, and I'll see you guys next time.